When it comes to cars, people like to talk about the good old days. Although we don't have leaded gas anymore, E85 still allows us to run high compression engines in daily drivable cars. And as I made my way back from Florida in this Malibu, I couldn't help but feel like I'm living in the good old days right now. If you had told me 20 years ago I could take a mid-10-second small block Chevy powered streetcar and drive it from Florida to Ohio without stopping to adjust valves or work on it, I would have likely told you you're crazy. But thanks to the technology available today in both valve train, cylinder head technology, and carburetors, Tess and I drove this Malibu that runs mid-10 seconds in the quarter mile all the way from Florida back to Ohio, through all different types of weather patterns and traffic conditions without ever stopping to work on the car. So if we can do it, there's no reason you can't too. Now that's not to say that this trip didn't come with a cost, and that there isn't maintenance to do on the car once we get home. The fact of the matter is, nearly everything we took to Florida had something wrong by the time we got home. The engine in Billy's Nova needs to come out and go back to Mike Henson in Oklahoma. The Falcon has a few oil leaks that need to be addressed, and I plan on bringing my Malibu in the shop to take a look at it as soon as we get Billy's 55 out of there. If you remember, before we left for Florida, the 55 needed a new fuel system. So Tanner and I pulled all the fuel system out of it and headed straight to Jegs to pick up some parts, stopping by the local car wash on the way in to get my dually cleaned up after its 2,000-mile trip from Ohio to Florida and back. After the car wash, the next stop was to top it off with fuel and then head towards Jegs. The 55 had an Edelbrock fuel pump on it. It appears that the Jegs brand that's made in the United States is the exact same pump. We'll put that in there for right now. We also picked up the correct gate plate for the shifter, a fresh set of 275s for the 55, as well as a brand new pair of Hoosiers for the Falcon. Uncle Craig helped us wheel them out to the dually and load them up.
Thanks, Greg.
Tanner jumped up on the back of the truck and secured the tires with a strap, and then we headed back to the shop to get busy installing a new fuel pump, running all new fuel lines to and from a brand new Holley return style regulator. Now we shouldn't have any more issues feeding this brand new ATM 1050 Dominator. When I first installed this new ATM 4-circuit Dominator, it seemed to solve all the drivability problems, except one. At wide open throttle, the car would lay over at the top of second gear, seemingly running out of fuel. Since there isn't a fuel pressure gauge visible from the driver's seat, and since the car currently doesn't have an air-fuel ratio monitor, I'm just going to have to rely on past experience to diagnose this thing. So now with a whole new fuel system with new fuel lines, regulator, and a fuel pump, and 10 gallons of Cam 2 in the tank, it's time to take it out and see whether or not we've fixed this car or whether we've still got problems. You scare the shit out of me.
You gotta know if it's right, you know?
I thought maybe the throttle was stuck.
No.
I'm not going to admit to how fast we were going, but I can tell you it was fast enough to know for certain that it no longer runs out of fuel at the top of second gear. So now we can cross one more problem off the list and move on to a few others. The car has a couple fluid leaks that we need to look into and fix, and it seems as though the car still has a little bit of air left in the braking system. So Billy and I made a couple little repairs to the car and took it back out for one more test drive before the sun goes down. Every time the car goes out the driveway, it comes back a little bit better, and we're starting to work our way down the list of little things like headlight alignment. And Billy also wants to swap out the 315 drag radials on the back for 275s that better fit the gear ratio in the rear end. So Tanner's going to work on that today while I make the trip up to House of Pearls to check in on Mom and Dad's 55 Chevy. I've been wanting to take the Monte Carlo up and show it to them ever since I got it back from Jack's Wax. Partially because I know that Paul, Nikki, and Jesse recently worked on a 79 Monte Carlo up there that required the trunk lock cover to be replaced, and evidently it requires some special hardware. The 79 Monte Carlo that they recently finished turned out really nice. So while the details of that car are still fresh on their memory, I'd like to run my car up there and ask them some questions about panel fitment. And of course talk to them about fitting and painting a new fiberglass hood. Since I plan on putting twin turbos and a blow-through carburetor on this Monte Carlo, I know for a fact that the high-rise intake, blow-through carburetor, and the carb hat will not fit under the stock hood. So I recently put in an order with Glass Tech in Illinois for a fiberglass bolt-on hood with a custom 4-inch Sunoco-style cowl induction hood scoop that should give plenty of hood clearance and blend in nicely with the factory body lines on my Monte Carlo. Anyway, I sent everybody a text up at the body shop and told them I was on my way after I topped the Monte off with a little bit of fuel. Paul seemed really excited that I was going to stop by, although everybody's really busy working on customer projects up there, including Mom and Dad's 55 Chevy, which Jesse has just started cutting the passenger side quarter panel off of. When I pulled into the body shop, I was still trying to mentally prepare myself to see the 55 in that condition. So instead of going straight back to see it, I decided to introduce them to my Monte Carlo. I came to ask your expertise on putting that back on my Monte Carlo.
Well,
as it turns out, this lock cover takes some special rivets that Paul's going to have to order in for me. He and Jesse were excited to see the Monte Carlo in person for the first time and offered to help me install the trunk latch cover once they get the parts ordered in. Finally, it was time for me to go in and see the 55 for myself for the very first time since they started cutting the quarter panels off the car. Even though I have full confidence in their ability, this is still a pretty scary sight. Okay, so this is scary to me.
yeah.
This is scary to me.
The first couple of them that I saw with no back end on them did scare me a little bit too, but I've seen he's a magic man, so it'll be back together. And don't want to say no time, but quicker than you think. Oh yeah. It's really the most time is like just pulling all the little braces and brackets off and sandblasting and cleaning them up and making them nice, putting them back all up.
And he built that skeleton in there, I guess you'd call it, to hold the car.
Yeah, just primarily the back end. So since we're not removing the roof or any of that structure up here, you're already fully supported all around. So once we section the quarters right here, nothing's gonna move.
And just so anybody knows, like, the whole car shakes. This thing, like, this
It's
is
not
solid.
And we've taken measurements too, so even if it does move a quarter of an inch or anything anywhere, we're test fitting all these panels multiple times throughout. So if we put any braces inside, it would just be more in the way than anything.
I got you.
The most important thing is to keep the door in the location.
Yes.
Because then when we throw the quarter up there, I can get everything sitting exactly where it was.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Oh.
And also, this is also one thing that...
Also
That's-
needs the taillight pockets.
Yeah, taillight pocket.
Oh, we need to order taillight pockets?
Yeah. So this is a separate piece. I already reached out to Scott and let him know. I'm not sure if he got them on order yet, but this is a separate piece to the quarter. For some reason, I thought it was going to be, and I knew they were separate, but I thought it was just going to be tucked into the box. I should have pulled everything out.
Okay.
So
we need to order those.
Yep. These parts, and then there's something. The rubber seal that goes in between the wheelhouse.
Oh,
The
okay.
inner wheelhouse to the quarter panels.
Okay.
You can supposedly get those in without the quarters on, but we'll make it so much easier to just put them in before.
Well, I'll come back some other time.
Once we have it looking like a car again. So Jesse's gonna get this side done and all pretty, and then we're gonna spend more time after walking through all the steps and everything. So because we don't specialize in anything specific, we've done a few of these, but they're all at different levels of what we do. So it's some figuring stuff out. Once he does the one, he'll have it all dialed in, be able to do the other one and really walk you through. But right now, he's got an hour into pulling a tiny little brace off, and 2 hours into figuring out how he wants to cut this or whatever. But
We've been working on Billy's 55 and driving it around a little bit. It's got me missing mine.
I bet. And that thing is awesome too.
It's going to need some attention at some point.
Yeah.
But
It's pretty though. It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So for what it is, and to actually enjoy it as a driver car,
Yeah.
that thing's great. Unfortunately, Tojo's probably going to be done before this thing.
yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah. It's going quicker than I thought. So
Yeah.
we just
simpler job.
true. A lot more simple.
A lot more simple job.
Yeah. It had some whiskey dents and stuff, but we actually had all of the paintless dent removal done on that yesterday.
Oh,
It's probably only going to end up with like a tablespoon of filler on that whole car. So
Really?
like I said, he is a magic man, so he can really.
That's the same guy you were talking about on my Monte Carlo, to have him take some of those dings out?
Yep.
I might have to look into that.
Yeah, he's awesome. So he was able to pop all those dents out of the Supra, because our primer, it's like a shiny primer. You can really get a good idea. So once you put the light on it,
yeah,
you can really map everything out. So he got everything pretty much 100% short of just blocking. So we're gonna block that whole thing with 320 and some guide coat. See if there's anything that needs kind of spotted in, and maybe another round of primer, but
it's getting close.
It is getting pretty close. Yep, closer than this. But this won't be too long either. I'm still hoping that when that you have this thing and can enjoy it for at least a month or two while the weather is really nice.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be too much longer off.
All right.
But we will get it.
Since the guys up at the body shop need these replacement panels for the 55 Chevy right away, I called up some friends of mine at Restoration World down near Dayton, and they had a set in stock. So Dad and I took a ride together in my dually down to go see these guys Saturday morning. It's only about an hour and a half drive from Columbus down to Huber Heights, but we had to get there early as they close at noon on Saturdays. We rolled in the parking lot about 10 o'clock, leaving plenty of time to do a little bit of shopping while we're down here. Now, this place specializes mostly in 1955 to 1972 GM cars and trucks, but they do have some late 40s Chevy truck parts, as well as some stuff up into the 80s, and tons of stuff for 55 Chevys. I feel like every time I come down here, I find stuff that I didn't even realize they had. In fact, they've got so much stuff down there, it's hard not to start another project every time something comes up on Marketplace. But with everything I have going on right now, I have to pace myself. Anyway, once we picked up those parts down at Restoration World, Dad went back up to the farm and I got busy in the shop working on my Malibu. I need to dig into this thing and figure out what was going on with the nitrous kit and look into why the AC compressor is making noise. And of course, I'd like to detail it underneath the hood and get everything cleaned up after our trip home. But first things first, I pulled the nitrous bottle out of the trunk and set it on the scales just to make sure that the bottle wasn't empty. With that checked off the list, it was time to pull the carburetor off and get the nitrous kit up on the bench to take a close look. And it didn't take long to find the first problem.
What are you doing? Oh, I thought you heard me.
Vicky came out to check on me and scared the hell out of me when she walked around the front of the car. I have found the problem with stage 1, but the second stage of the nitrous kit had its own separate problem. The relay for the second stage of the nitrous kit had a lot of corrosion on the contacts. I cleaned up the connections and replaced the relay, and a little bit of dielectric grease had us back in business. I cleaned up the nitrous kit and the carburetor and detailed everything underneath the hood, so that by Monday morning, everything looked good as new. Good morning, Mr. Steve.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
Good.
I was working on this all weekend.
Pretty sad we went all the way to Florida and should have tested the nitrous kit before, but
So, a couple things. One, there was a loose fitting on the first stage, stage 1, nitrous solenoid. The fitting was loose on the bottom of it, so it wasn't hardly putting any nitrous to the plate. It was just blowing out everywhere. It was literally ready to fall off. And then there was a relay over here on the inner fender that had some corrosion. So the second stage never even had power. I thought the second stage came on, but it really didn't. It was just the first stage going extra rich, you know. So I want to put the bottle back in it here in a little bit and take it up the road and at least roll into each stage individually. I don't want to turn them both on at the same time because it's going just junk fuel, but I want to take it up the road and blast it on each stage and make sure it works.
sounds like a plan.
I had big plans of making nitrous pulls today and filming me and Tanner having lots of fun. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Not good. Not good at all. One of the two nitrous solenoids is stuck open, and it's currently filling the intake manifold full of nitrous oxide. I quickly disabled the ignition system and cycled the solenoids in an attempt to get the nitrous solenoid to hold pressure. It's still leaking. But unfortunately, the nitrous solenoid would not hold. So we purged the system down and come to the conclusion we won't be making nitrous pulls today. I'm gonna have to replace that solenoid. There's no way we're gonna take this thing out and start blasting it today. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and run down to Mark's, get some oil and filter and stuff so we can change oil in it and get it serviced, get it up on a lift, get it cleaned up underneath from the trip home.
Yeah, you were stuck in the rain. That was terrible. It made this thing filthy.
Yeah. All right, I'll run down to Mark's, get the stuff we need to do an oil change on. I'll have you put it up on the lift, just start cleaning it up, drain the oil.
All right.
So while Tanner's back at the shop draining the oil out of the Malibu, I hopped in the El Camino and head down to Mark's. And it just so happens Buckwheat's in the store with his truck parked out back. What the hell are you doing here?
You're getting in my way, aren't you?
What are you talking about?
He's already confused enough.
I'm getting in your way? How am I getting in your way?
I gotta make sure you stay on him on your parts.
What parts?
Your AC parts.
On the way home from Florida, I noticed that the AC compressor in the Malibu was starting to make some noise, so I called Buckwheat.
When did you find out that air conditioning in the Malibu blew up?
It didn't blow up.
Oh, it didn't?
It never quit.
Oh.
It just made noise. I thought it was the clutch going out, so I called Buckwheat to investigate. Buckwheat stopped to check on the Malibu the other day while I was up at the body shop.
Yeah, Houston, we have some problems. Maintenance. Yeah, it's like regular maintenance. It's not race car maintenance where you just blew something up. It's actual maintenance. Yeah, I'm filming you. You go ahead and film me. Whatever. Uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. I'm gonna have to flush this whole complete system.
I'm not entirely sure what's happened here, but there's definitely a problem.
Could be some contamination involved, so we've got everything coming to
It's contaminated.
fix it.
With its own pump.
But it was still working. That's kind of crazy because usually when they grenade, they don't.
Well, I didn't know it grenaded. It was still
pumping.
working.
Huh.
I just thought the compressor clutch was making noise.
Ain't that something? Well, it must be, that's a tough pump then.
Mark gathered up the oil that I needed and hauled it out to the El Camino for me and promised me he'd warranty out my compressor. And that would be the last of the good news that I would receive on Monday. While Tanner and I had the car up on the lift, I wanted to polish the front wheels, and that's when I noticed that one of my brake calipers was loose. After further investigation, I find this engineering marvel. The bolt holes for my caliper brackets were drilled to the wrong size and the incorrect bolts used. Did you do that?
I didn't do that.
Who did that?
The other guy that works on vehicles here.
In order to fix this properly, I'm going to have to replace the spindle, and we could only find one of the correct bolts that are supposed to be installed. That's all the thread that was holding in my caliper bracket into the spindle. Hold on, wait a minute. There's more good news coming. It seems that the right rear axle seal is again leaking gear oil all over the inside of the wheel and all over the brakes. So we called down to Mark's and got a new axle seal, replaced it, cleaned up the wheel, and then I started power washing everything underneath the back of the car so that when we go to drop the fuel tank and replace the sending unit, we don't end up covered in grease and grime. By Monday evening, I had had my fill of working on cars for the day. In hopes of accomplishing something to make myself feel somewhat productive, I got out the tractor, mowed the yard, and then me and June Pup did a little work on the driveway. The weather report for tomorrow calls for a little bit of rain, and I've got some spots in the driveway that could use a little bit of gravel. While I was busy doing yard work and working on the driveway, Vicky was busy out back in the new shop answering emails, working on shipping merchandise out, and decorating her new office. I'm guessing that she had caught wind of all my bad fortune today, and she wanted to invite me out to dinner in her El Camino after I check out everything she's done in the office.
Have you been to my shop yet today? Have
No.
you seen the new TV?
No.
Come on. Check this out. Entertainment while I work.
She's evidently been out there watching fried green tomatoes while she's working.
Look at this. My friend Tammy got me this fridge. How cute is that? So then I had to get a matching microwave. So now I need a matching table.
In case you haven't noticed, Vicky's favorite color is mint green. Anyway, after I got my latest tour of Vickyville out in the shop, we went down and had dinner at Tumbleweed to relax and try to recharge and regroup to start all over again on Tuesday. Well, did you go get your parts this morning at Mark's?
Yeah, I got my parts. Cluster as usual. So this is supposed to be all my parts, right?
We got everything except for the condenser, but I don't know what you did with it.
Oh, it's up front still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't let me forget that.
No, I won't. Let's get this stuff loaded.
Yeah, get out to the fire truck. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what the? Ah, son of a... What the?
One thing Mark and I share in common is we both suffer from too much stuff packed in too small of an area.
Minions! Minions!
Well, at least you put them on a cart. There, now we can get out. Well, hell, I've got myself one.
Oh my, yeah.
There, how about that?
It's gonna be one of these days, isn't it?
It's already been one of these days.
Eventually, Mark managed to clear a path to the back door and got all my parts loaded up in Jeremy's fire truck so he could get started working on the air conditioning on my Malibu. Step 1 was to remove the orifice tube and begin flushing the system, which is a very important step because if you don't get all the metal shavings and contaminants out of the system, they will destroy the new AC compressor once Jeremy installs it and begins charging the system. All right, everybody, welcome back to the shop. It is Tuesday night. Obviously, we've had a rough last few days. Ever since we got back from Florida, things have been rough, a little difficult, unexpectedly difficult. So we've got the AC compressor put back on the car, and Jeremy flushed the system out today, but he's not happy with it. He wants to flush some more stuff out of it tomorrow with a different solvent. I think he's wanting to use denatured alcohol. The stuff that he got from Mark, he's not happy with. Big surprise. But we're going to flush this thing out a little bit more tomorrow and charge the air conditioning. Shout out to the guys up at Summit because Monday afternoon when I found out I needed a spindle, Tanner immediately got on Summit's website and found that they had the spindle I needed in stock. And he's like, here's the link, order it. So I did. I ordered the spindle on Monday afternoon, and Tuesday morning it was here at the shop, delivered. I couldn't believe it. We managed to get the spindle installed today. We're not quite done with that project. That was rough, finding that brake caliper loose. I'm not going to lie. That was disturbing, to say the least. Obviously, we're probably going to have to keep a little closer eye on things around here and check over things because that could have been bad. We just drove that car 1,000 miles during sick week, and we drove it 950 miles home. And, we drove through the mountains. And if that caliper had fallen off and gotten tangled up in the front wheel, it could have destroyed the wheel, possibly locked up the wheel, possibly caused an accident, and that's a serious matter. So we're going to look into what we can do to do better about putting brakes on around here for sure, and double and triple checking everything that gets done. So let's see what else is going on. I do have some good news. We have gotten started on the small block Chevy we're going to put in Vicky's El Camino. For right now, it's just going to be a stock 307, stock camshaft, stock cylinder heads. However, I think I am going to go ahead and put an aluminum intake on it with a 4-barrel and probably an MSD distributor. I'm not sure I want to deal with points ignition in it. Obviously, I would have rather put this 327 in it, but I'm not comfortable putting it in there in the condition that it's currently in. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it just needs, at very least, it needs a valve job and new valve seals and everything. I'm afraid if I just put it in the car the way it is, that the valve seals will probably get brittle and it'll start smoking. This one came out of that 70 Nova up in New York that Tyler No Boost has. And I feel pretty confident based on what I saw underneath the valve covers, it's in good enough shape we can put it right in there and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I do plan on going ahead and putting a set of headers on it and dual exhaust. Like I said, I'll probably go ahead and put an aluminum intake on it, a little 754 barrel or something. But, nothing extravagant. It's just going to be a nice daily driver. I just want something that's reliable and smooth and quiet. Something we can get in and go to dinner and enjoy and talk to each other and have a conversation inside. And I don't know, just something we can travel in a little bit and enjoy without the heartaches and the headaches of something that's maybe this extreme. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my Malibu. And unfortunately, we have a few things we got to repair on it now that it's home. But honestly, for a car that does what this one does and is capable of doing what this one is capable of doing, it did a really good job on the way home. The AC compressor, that's just a stock part that, it happens. That style compressor is kind of known for having problems anyway. But the axle seal, I mean, that's kind of a common issue with a 9-inch Ford rear end. Unfortunately, it seems to be a very common issue with this particular rear end. It's leaked from the day I bought it, and I've had nothing but trouble out of it. And I told Strange if if there's anything I can do to swap this over to a Strange axle set and bearing set, I'd love to, because their design is, in my opinion, much better. But we'll see what we can do. I called Jake at Strange, and he's working on that. I'd also like to put some Hot Boy brakes on Vicky's El Camino so that it's got a little bit better stopping power. This thing is incredible. The brakes on this car are really good. It's just I'm not really happy with the Mosier rear brakes and the Mosier axle seal issue I've been having. So we'll get to that eventually, soon, I hope. We did get the nitrous system all straightened up. However, I've got new solenoids here from Nitrous Express to replace the nitrous solenoids that are on this. I think it's a year or two old now, and most likely the problem with those solenoids stems from the fact that a lot of times the car gets parked with the bottle left open, and that's really, really hard on nitrous solenoids. You don't want to do that. Anytime that you're not racing the car for an hour or two, you really ought to consider closing the bottle, purging the system down, and taking the pressure off those solenoids. And I know that I have numerous times left that bottle on, sometimes in the trailer. I know it's bad. I should never do that. It's just, I forgot. But, you know, we get busy. There's a lot of people at the track that come to see us and say hi, and we get distracted. And a lot of times things get forgotten. And I know for a fact that I personally have made the mistake of forgetting to turn that nitrous bottle off. And I think the car at one point sat outside in the trailer for a week with a bottle on. Bad. It's just, everybody makes mistakes. It happens. So anyway, we should have this thing back in tip-top shape, hopefully by the end of this week. And this weekend, I don't know if we are racing or not. Billy just got home from Oklahoma this evening. He's pretty tired. I don't know if the boys are planning on going, but there's a 2-day event down at Edgewater in Cincinnati. It's a no-prep race, a Friday and Saturday deal. And I think we may go, but I can't promise that. I haven't talked to the kids, and like I said, Billy just got home tonight from Oklahoma. He's been on the road. He took and dropped an LS off over at Mike Lau's, and he took his big block out to Mike Henson, dropped it off out there, and he just got home. So I know he's tired, and we've got to hit the road again tomorrow, believe it or not. He's got something he wants to go pick up down in Kentucky, and I don't want to spoil the surprise, but he's got something up his sleeve. You'll have to see that on the Street Racing channel. You have to wait for his video to come out. I'm going to help him film tomorrow whenever he can climb out of bed. He's pretty tired. So that's about it for tonight, guys. Thank you all for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. By the way, I'm closed in on 150,000 subscribers. I can't hardly believe that, but I'm very appreciative. I thank you guys so much for all the love and the support for our family and everything that we're doing. I can't wait for you guys to see what we've got coming next. Good night, everybody.